Give it just a few more minutes, and if it doesn't start working in a few minutes, I'll just speak loudly. While they're working on the mics, let's go ahead and do roll call to see if that's working correctly. If you've already signed in and you're here, go ahead and hit your present button. I think maybe the mics don't come on until after roll call because of the update. Go ahead and record the roll, please, Mr. Whitney. Matt Williamson. There we go. Before the roll, please, Mr. Whitney.
We have 24 present, 0 absent.
All right, while they continue to work on the mics, we'll speak loudly until they're operational. The next item on our agenda would be and is the invocation and pledge delivered tonight by District 10. I do want to point out that Commissioner Cheryl Brown, who will be doing the invocation this evening, this is her final evening with us. We want to thank her for her dedication and devotion to being a commissioner during her time as a commissioner. You will be missed.
Let us pray. Father, thank you for the opportunity to serve as county commissioner for such a time as this. And I ask that the Holy Spirit will come down and fill this room. And may each conversation here tonight be filled with your grace, peace, kindness, and mercy. And may we put away the pointing of the finger as you have said in your word. And as we join here tonight to give, we ask that the Holy Spirit will make us one as you and the Father are one. For your word says how good and pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. So Father, I thank you. And I ask everyone to join me tonight as we pray the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever. Amen. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion. I have a motion made by Commissioner Megan Guffey, seconded by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. Are there any additions or corrections that need to be made to the minutes? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of approval of the minutes, there's the mic. Signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes. Next, we have citizen communications. Our rules allow up to 3 minutes per speaker for a total of 30 minutes. We have 2 speakers. I'll call on you in the order in which you signed in. When you come to the podium, if you would, announce your name and the town in which you live. And first up, I have Scott King.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Scott King. I actually live in Smyrna, but I'm speaking on behalf of Mill Creek Lodge 775 in Nolensville, Tennessee. I'm the chairman of the Board of Trustees. So there's a resolution. It's I believe it's 112433. That's about a setback rule. There is a setback rule. The property in question is part of a 46-acre original farm that was divided into 9 parcels. Each of those parcels had a setback restrictions of 25 feet on the side and 100 feet from Nolensville Road. We have been part of, and when I say we, the Lodge and Williamson County, of a lawsuit to try to take away our rights to keep our setback restrictions in place. The town of Nolensville has given the developer, has taken away the 10-foot setback rule restriction that was in place and gave them a 0. If we aren't able to keep our 25-foot and 100-foot setback rules in place, the developer will be able to build right up to our property line. These setback restrictions have been in place for approximately 60 years. These properties have changed hand many times. There's never been a problem with anybody opposing this, and we don't see a reason why to change it now. We think it'd be very detrimental to not only our property, but also the other people that's been named in the lawsuits, in this lawsuit also. One of them being our mayor of Nolensville and four other property owners. We just don't see how it's going to help the situation or the city in any way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. King. Next, I have Mr. Bill Petty. Is he here? He signed in, or somebody did.
That's nice.
Mr. Bill Petty? Okay, we'll move on, and with that, citizens' communications is closed. We now go to communications and messages, and the chair would like to call on Mr. Whidbey at this time.
Someone signed up for him. That's not okay. We need to announce
There he is walking in. He must have went to the restroom.
Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate it. And thank you, Commissioners, for allowing us to have the time to recognize my grandmother, who has been a fine representation, I think, of what a good public servant should be over the course of her career. So we have a proclamation honoring Miss Elaine Anderson. Whereas a lifelong resident of Williamson County, Elaine Harris was born to William Francis Harris and Amanda White Harris in September 1933 and graduated Williamson County's Hillsborough High School in 1952. And whereas she married Floyd Anderson on August the 18th, 1953, and together they had one daughter, Donna, husband Wayne Whidbey, grandson Jeff Whidbey, and wife Jessica, and one great-grandson Braxton Whidbey. And whereas she began her career as a deputy clerk in the Williamson County Clerk's Office on July 1st, 1967, working for the late Casey Jones, who served as county clerk from 1946 to 1970. And whereas upon his election as county clerk in 1970, Charlie Fox Jr. retained Miss Anderson to serve as a deputy clerk until his retirement in 1998. And whereas in 1998, Elaine Anderson ran for and was elected to serve as Williamson County's clerk, where she was elected for 6 terms as the clerk. And whereas throughout her tenure in the county clerk's office, she has served on a state committee to help create local business tax rules and regulations in the 1970s, and served on the board of the Tennessee County Clerk Organ Awareness Foundation for multiple years. And whereas in 2023, Elaine Anderson was inducted by her peers throughout the state of Tennessee into the Hall of Fame for the County Clerks Association of Tennessee. And whereas, though she retired, Mrs. Anderson continues to work as a part-time clerk, assisting her grandson Jeff Whitby, who was elected to succeed her as county clerk in 2022. And whereas those who know Mrs. Anderson on a personal level admire her dedication, her volunteer spirit and accomplishments, and her loving smile, now therefore be it resolved that I, Rogers Anderson, as mayor of Williamson County, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, November the 12th, 2024, as Elaine Anderson Day in Williamson County, and encourage all citizens to join me in paying tribute to Mrs. Anderson for her public service, her leadership, and her commitment to enhancing the quality of life for residents throughout our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I don't know what to say other than I miss everyone down here. But I am still in the office down here and still be able to help you. But he surprised me. I thought it was going to be for him. So.
We had to keep a secret, but I can attest that at 6 o'clock she was still in there checking titles, getting ready for tomorrow's day. So and she'll be there first thing in the morning. But thank you all so much for honoring her.
I saw Miss Elaine Anderson this morning in her office, and I almost blew the surprise. I didn't.
No.
We love you, Miss Anderson. I thoroughly enjoy working with your grandson. I do wish just once I could say, record the vote, please, Miss Anderson. Next, under communications and messages, just as a reminder, effective at our next meeting, which will be in January, we will be meeting at 6 p.m. instead of 7 p.m., so make sure you take note of that. We have 5 resolutions in your packet that have been requested to be withdrawn by their respective authors. So we will be pulling from the packet. Oh, another, what number? 112433. Okay. So we have 6 resolutions to pull from your packet. Resolutions 23, 28, obviously these are in no certain order, 2, 3, 22, and now 33. Let me make a note of 33 on mine.
2, 3, what is?
Let me read those again here in a second. I'm going to reread them here in a second. Okay, once again, those are 2, 3, 22, 23, 28, and 33. All 6 of those have been requested to be pulled by their authors. And if you thought that was going to save us time, we have 6 resolutions to add. We have 6 late filed resolutions this evening, and if there are no objections, we'll hear those. They're all in your packet. They're grants and, but yeah, they're all in your packet. Gosh, I don't even have them in front of me. They're all scattered throughout. Which ones are the late? You got all these?
Right here.
Okay.
2 under appropriations.
So of the late filed resolutions, we have 2 under appropriations, Resolution 112435 and 112436. And then we have 4 under other, those being the last 4 in your packet, Resolutions 31, 32, 33, and 34.
And 33 was pulled.
And 33 was pulled, so, excuse me, 5 late filed resolutions. They're about to turn off my mic, I guess, to work on it, so I'll speak up. And next up, we have reports of county offices. Mayor Rogers Anderson. And as Rogers comes to the podium, I do want to recognize that he was given an honor here recently from the Association of County Mayors. Our very own Mayor Rogers Anderson was named this year as Mayor of the Year.
Well, thank you very much, but as everyone knows that I appreciate all the other county mayors submitting my name, but it's really the people back home that do the work so that all of us can shine, all of elected officials. So first of all, if I may, I'd like to call upon Phoebe, as I always do, to give us a snapshot of what's happened over the last 30 days. Phoebe?
Thank you, and good evening, Commissioners. We did receive approval from the Comptroller's Office authorizing us to issue the tax and revenue anticipation note. A letter is included in your packet if you'd like to view that. We do need to get that into records to make sure everyone knows that I did share that with you. So the letter is included in your packet if you would like to look that over. However, now that current property taxes are starting to be received, our cash flow is actually improving, happily to say. And at this point, we do not anticipate actually having to issue that internal loan between the general fund and the school, general purpose school fund. Collections for the month of October, just to give you an idea of what I'm discussing or mentioning, is $3.7 million in current property taxes were received in the month of October. And that's going to be probably one of our lowest months. So they are starting to come in. November, we will see a great deal more, and of course, finishing out the fiscal year, or through the calendar year, we anticipate that we will not need that $13 million. So I'm happy to report that. We will keep a look on our cash flow, keep an eye out for that to make sure if there's anything changes. Obviously, we will let you know if we do move forward with that, but at this time, we do not foresee that happening. September was a good month for revenues generated by the Cool Springs Conference Center. We received $72,858 in profits for the month. This is an increase of $25,381 over this time last fiscal year. So September has been a good month for the Conference Center. Privilege tax collections for the month of September was just a little over $1.1 million. This is just slightly less than our 1.2 that we collected in our previous month of August. However, collections are still holding steady throughout the county. With that, of course, education impact fee usually follows suit, as those are collected at the same time and based on the square footage of the home. September collections for education impact was slightly less as well for the month, collecting overall $1.7 million for the month of September. So that concludes my report for this evening. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to take those at this time.
Any questions for Ms. Riley? I see none.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the only other thing we've got tonight, we've asked Brad Coleman to come and give a snapshot, about 5 minutes. Hopefully it won't be as long as we did last month on a couple of presentations, but we're in the process of doing a reappraisal, and it's very, very important that you all understand the mechanics, and it's not finished, but he'll go through some of the mechanics for you so we can answer those questions. And then it is my intent to come back in probably February so that he can give you another recapture after it's all closed out on 1/1/25. Brad Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Commission. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you, give you a snapshot of kind of what's going on in the assessor's office as Miss Jamie gets me set up here. We talked about property tax collections that Phoebe just shared with. Really, there's two variables that go into those property tax collections. That's the value that we place on all taxable property. And then ultimately, that's going to be the tax rate that you all set each year. And so those work hand in hand together. And so I want to kind of give you a snapshot. Paul said 3 minutes. Roger said 5. We'll see where we land. Really, two big things, and kind of just give you some pieces of what we're doing is reappraisal and the certified tax rate and how those relate with each other and with you guys. So I believe we'll be on the screen. All right.
I promise everything was working at 3 o'clock.
All right. All right, Lanny, you might want to come back over here one more time.
Hit the space bar.
Space bar, not the down bar. All right, there you go. Awesome, thank you. So I want to kind of give you a historical look at values and tax rates over the last 20 or so years. I started working for the county in 2003. My first reappraisal that I went through in 2006 that I was actually here. Our total assessed value in 2006 was $6.1 billion. And so you can see this graph on the left here, assessed values. We're going in one direction, and that's up. You'll see each year at the bottom represents a reappraisal year. So as we look at 2011, we went up to 8.3 billion, 2016 up to 11.7, 2021 up to $17.9 billion in assessed value. So that's all taxable property. That is that fractional assessment where your residential homes are on at 25%, commercial properties are on at 40%, personal property on at 30% of their full value. That gives us that assessed value, again, $17.9 billion in 2021, the last reappraisal. You look at that graph, everything's going up. We look at the other side, that's your part. The tax rate's gone down over that same amount of time. So you'll notice there's two bars on that side. We've got the certified tax rate in blue. That's what I'm going to calculate next spring that we are charged with each year. And then the other is in orange. Sorry, that's the wrong shade of orange for most of you, I understand. But that's going to be the actual tax rate that is voted on each year based on the needs of the county. And so that's what you're charged with. In 2006, the certified tax rate was $2.31. That was a drop from $2.84 previously. At that point, that was presented, and the commission said that was enough to meet the needs of the county. You'll see those numbers are the same. $2.31 is the same for the certified tax rate and the actual tax rate that was adopted that year. Fast forward to 2011, the certified tax rate dropped because of the increase in value. Certified tax rate dropped to $2.15. Keep in mind the certified tax rate is a revenue neutral rate, so it's not bringing in any additional funds to the county. The point of reappraisal is not to bring in more money, it is to equalize and bring values to current market value, whether that be up or down. Over a 5-year swing, we've never seen it go down in this county. If we were on an annual cycle, you may have seen properties that did go down or overall. We'll tell you in 2011, we did see some properties that did go down. Some of our really higher end homes saw a decrease in value in that reappraisal. But collectively, we've went up every year in a reappraisal. So in 2011, that revenue neutral rate was $2.15. At that point, the commission needed additional resources, and so there was a 16-cent increase on that certified rate, which brought it back to $2.31. And so that appears to be that the tax rate stayed the same for 10 years, which is true, but in 2011, that was actually a 16-cent increase to $2.31. Fast forward to 2016, as we go up to $11.7 billion in assessed value, the certified tax rate at that point dropped to $187. The actual tax rate was brought to $215. Again, in 2021, lower to $175 on the certified rate, brought up 13-cent increase to $188. So in that last column, you'll see the big red question marks there. I want to make sure you see the red question marks because we're not there yet. We don't know what the numbers are going to be. We've started our reappraisal work about 2 months ago, and so we're starting with some of the easier properties. We're looking at subdivisions, looking at some of our more modest homes, subdivisions, and what we're seeing across the board is large increases that I think we would all anticipate. Keep in mind, we're capturing all those increases in market value from 21, 22, and then the last 2 years as well. Although they haven't been as high, we're still increasing in value. On a conservative number, I'm going to tell you we're going to go up 55% next year on the assessed values for all properties collectively. I think that's a conservative rate. If I'm being honest, I think it's going to be a little higher than that. So I'm telling you it's going to be 55% plus across the board. Residential really driving a lot of that. Some of our commercial properties are going to go up quite a bit, but as most of you are aware, like our office space, not going to increase quite as much as some of our other commercial properties. But collectively, I'm looking at about a 55+% increase in value. So if you see on the left-hand side there, I'm predicting somewhere just shy of a $30 billion assessment, a certified tax rate as low as 121 or lower if we increase more than that. So as I come back to you in the spring and I'm charged with coming up with a certified tax rate, we're going to be in that low rate of 121 or less is what I think I'll be presenting with you. Just want you to be kind of aware of where we're at and where I think we might be going. I think this might help put a little bit better picture to it. If we look just year over year, 24 to 25. In 24, we had a total assessed value of $19.3 billion. Our tax rate last year, $1.88. Total taxes collected for property tax for those would be $362,840,000. So what does that look like going forward with the certified rate? In 2025, with the reappraisal, again, assuming a 55% increase, our total assessed value would increase to that $29.9 billion, and then an indicated certified tax rate of 121. You'll notice the taxes are the same. So using those two numbers, the 29.9 and the 121, you would be bringing in the same amount of money in 25 as you did in 24. Give you 3 different examples of homes. Obviously, we're going to reappraise all properties, all taxable properties in Williamson County, residential and commercial. They're not all going to go up the same amount. It's not just a blanket 55% across the board. We're going to look at each defined area. We're really lucky in this county that we have large subdivisions with lots of sales, so we're going to break it down to that level. Some of our neighborhoods and subdivisions are so large that they have different sections that can be drastically different. We're going to break that subdivision down into subsections or phases, if you will. A different phase in West Haven looks much different than some of the earlier phases. We're going to break those down by phase to try to capture what the true market value of that property. Again, the goal of our office that we're charged with is to come up with a 100% market value as of 1/1 of 25. So what would I expect to sell my home to you for on 1/1 of 25? That's the number that we're trying to capture in our reappraisal value for all 100,000 plus properties. If you look at Home A is going to go up 55% exactly. So this is going to be your average home in Williamson County from 24 to 25 and how that is affected by the reappraisal and that certified tax rate. So if this average home was $600,000 previously, we're saying that home is now worth $930,000. So obviously when I send out that postcard, that person's going to see that incredible increase, and there's going to be some sticker shock involved with that. What we're going to try to do our best to articulate and make sure that we're advertising is the certified rate that drops. So if they, with a certified rate of 121 in this scenario, with a 55% increase in value, you'll see their 24 taxes were $2,820, and they're the same thing in 25. Again, that's assuming that the certified tax rate were adopted. Home B, this home went up a little bit less than the average. They only went up 50% in value. $600,000 home goes up to $900,000. 24 taxes were that $2,820. Their 25 taxes with the certified rate would be $2,729. They would actually go down a little less than they paid the previous year. And then Home C, they went up a little more than the average. They went up 60% from $600,000 to $960,000. Their taxes in 24, $2,820 would go up to $2,911. Because they went up more than the average, they would be paying more than they did the previous year because they went up above the average increase overall. Of course, keep in mind, all of this is using the certified tax rate, so whatever we vote on or you vote on as a commission, those taxes will be increased above those numbers. Y'all like to talk about pennies. What's a penny worth this year? In 2024, the penny brings in just shy of $2 million. We're looking at $1.93 million per penny on the tax rate. Obviously, with our value going up, I'm not going to throw a number out there quite yet, but penny's going to be a little more valuable next year. And so when we come back in the spring, late winter to talk to you, that's going to be something we can kind of have a little bit better grasp of how close to that $29 billion we at, or how much more we are than that once we get to work through the rest of our work that we've got ahead of us. Lastly, I want to give you some reappraisal dates just to kind of keep in mind. Again, that January 1st, that's the effective date of the assessment. That's what we're saying. As of this date, this is what this property is worth. We've started about 2 months ago working towards that. We're going to continue fine-tuning that because obviously homes are going to still sell through the rest of this year. The closer we can get to that reappraisal date, the more accurate that value that we bring is going to be. We'll end up finalizing our numbers in April. The Comptroller's Office, Division of Property Assessment, will be looking over our information. They will give a certification of those assessments that we will be bringing to you all. Beyond that, in May, we'll be mailing those postcards out to all 100,000 plus homeowners and business owners. Immediately, once those notices hit the mailboxes, we'll start informal appeals. People will be calling, walking in, emailing. An informal appeal is really just a conversation. Beyond that, I will start working it for the CTR in May. And then in June, County Board of Equalization will meet. That will be the first level of formal appeal. The CTR will be then approved by the state. And then that's when you will be voting on that tax bills. Putting those two numbers together, pass it to October. Ms. Karen Paris, our trustee, will then be mailing out new tax bills with my new numbers and your new tax rate. That's a lot in 5 minutes or less. Any questions? I'll be glad.
Any questions for Mr. Coleman?
Hold on just a second. Jamie, you'll have to turn that off for him to see the questions.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Hold on, Brad.
Commissioner Torres, did you have a question? Okay. Brad, we do have a question, I'm sorry. The screen didn't pop up until you were about to sit down. Question here from Commissioner Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Brad.
Yes, sir.
That
How
was
are you?
very helpful. It was great. Thank you. Just a quick question. Does your office have any tools, or does state have any tools that can provide some like basic education to taxpayers? Because and the reason I'm asking is I remember when the reappraisal happened prior to me being elected, my first phone call wasn't to your office, it was to Barb.
Okay.
Trying to figure out why did my tax bill go up so much? So I'm just thinking ahead that if there's an opportunity to do some education, or at least give us some resources where we can point constituents or citizens to, that would be helpful.
Yeah. As far as when you say education, are you talking about actually for market value or numbers, or are you talking about more just process?
I think both. I think
yeah.
almost a version of what you just
Yeah.
presented today.
So what I'd like to do is put together some short videos to kind of put out there, and that we can advertise on those notices as well as any of our publications, just to help people understand. The better people understand that your taxes are not going to go up 55+%, makes my job a whole lot easier. Reappraisal is not fun. We anticipate about a 3 to 5% appeal rate. That's 3,000 to 5,000 angry people. Not all of them are angry, but you understand where that sticker shock comes in. As far as like actual values, we really don't. A lot of people are looking at aftermarkets, Zillow, Redfin. There's a lot of available information, and honestly, I think maybe that's even better because it's not me telling them. It's an external source saying this is what your property's worth, and these are the comps used to come up with that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Richards.
Thank you. Maybe you already touched upon this. Could you share those slides with us at the mayor's office?
Oh,
and
yeah,
forward to
absolutely.
us?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Coleman? I see none.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes everything. I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for the mayor? I see none. Next, we have Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Jason Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commission, for your work. Did want to let you know, Mr. Chair, you made a comment about Veterans Day yesterday. We intentionally have school on Veterans Day because we believe it's important for our students to spend time talking about veterans and the importance. And I know many of you have come to our schools during those celebrations, and I want to thank you for doing that. I happen to be at a middle school, Thompson Station Middle School, and a Vietnam veteran spoke to an assembly of all of our middle school students, explained to them that he had never spoken before a larger crowd in his life, and he had their attention. So it was a great event. Of course, we had a number of high schools participating in the parade as well. So I wanted you all to make sure that you knew that we celebrate our veterans as well. We have two items on your agenda tonight. One of them is a zero budget issue where we're moving the pay raise that you all approved back in July to the appropriate line items. We are also doing our annual work this month on buses. Did want to let you all know that because of the state requirements for retirement age, either at 200,000 miles or 18 years, we have 10 buses retiring. Actually 12, I apologize, 10 general education buses and 2 special ed. We are replacing 6 of those 10 gen ed buses, but we have a larger need for special education buses, so we are replacing those 2 special education buses with 6. The net effect is the same, but we are finding an increase in demand for special education transportation, even while our numbers are stabilizing. We're becoming more efficient on the general education side, but the demands continue to grow for special education. So certainly open to any questions you may have.
Any questions for Superintendent Golden? I see none.
Thank you.
Next, we have the hospital report, Mr. Phil Mazuka and Mike Genesee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm going to give you a really quick report, and then Mike will update you on the financials. Yesterday, we received approval from the state to occupy our new C-section rooms, which will open up tomorrow. And this is really important for us. We've been doing most of our C-sections during this process over the last several weeks in our ORs. And so this will be better for the OB team to be able to get back into the C-section rooms. We're nearing completion of the NICU. We expect state inspections to be conducted the first week of December and anticipating opening the NICU on December 12th. Once we move into the NICU, we'll be tying up any loose ends and we'll have our project completed. We'll continue to raise money through our foundation as we've only reached about 50% of our initial goal. And we'll wait on any renovations to the existing facility until we get closer to raising that, to reaching that goal. Last time I presented to you that in the month of September, we had a record number of births. I'm glad to tell you that in the month of October, we beat that record. And we had, I think, over 181 births in the month of October. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike to give you the financial report.
Thank you, Phil. Good evening. Those deliveries, Phil, they were up 26% year over year. So that was a good increase. Just a quick summary here, guys. On the highlight page that we usually start with, you can see that the admissions, that's more of the inpatient sides for inpatients for us. We continue to see a little bit of a decline in that, and that's due to both CMS moving patients, continue to move patients from inpatient to outpatient, and then we continue to have difficulty with our managed care companies approving the inpatients. So we're seeing more and more of what we used to have traditionally as inpatients on the outpatient side, and the inpatients that get in are typically a little bit sicker than what we've seen in the past. But overall, with the exception of the inpatient side, we did see some increases in our outpatient volume. And when you see a lot of brackets over there, our actual versus our 13-month average, I'm glad to see that our surgeries actually are up 5% over prior year, and our ER visits are up 3% over prior year. Might be a little bit less than the monthly average, but still, we're showing growth on that. We generated almost $30 million in net revenue, a little bit higher than what we had budgeted. We had a net income of just under $600,000, beating our budget by a few $1,000s. And year-to-date, the same. We're $1,750,000 net income versus $1,700,000 on a budget. We had a strong, we have a really good trend here, guys. We had a strong collection month. We only had 20 days of collection, 20 bank days in September versus 22 the month before, but we collected pretty much the same amount of money. We have 92 days of cash on hand, and we have a debt coverage ratio of 2.11 versus our debt covenant of 1.5. So overall, we had a pretty decent month. So glad to answer any questions. Oh, I also provided you all with a copy of our audit. I think it was in your packet. As I mentioned the month before, or last month, we got they call it now an unmodified report opinion, which is a clean opinion. It used to be unqualified in my day. So, but it's the best report we can get. So glad to answer your questions.
Any questions for Mr. Genesee or Mr. Mazuka? I see none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other departments wishing to speak at this time? If not, before we move on to elections and appointments, I did fail to mention during communications and messages another award that the county received that's worth noting. We received a Success Story Award for the recent collaborative work to approve the countywide urban growth plan. And we're proud to receive that award. And with that, we'll move on to elections and appointments. First up, we have under County Mayor, the Emergency Communications Board, Districts 3 and 12, filling an unexpired term expiring 3 of 27. For the vacancy, the nomination is Mallory Reese. Look for a motion and a second. Proper motion made by Commissioner Megan Guffey, seconded by Commissioner Lisa Hayes. Any questions or comments regarding this nomination? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of the nomination, signify by pressing your yes button. I'm told they're loaded. Here we go. Any opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Nomination is, motion passes. Under the County Commission, we have the Beer Board, Northeast Section, term expiring Charlie Fox III, nomination Charlie Fox III. I have a proper motion from Commissioner Guffey, seconded by Commissioner Cheryl Brown. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes. Next, we have the Library Board of Trustees filling in unexpired term, expiring 6 of 26. Resigning is Jordan Weaver. Nomination is Laurel Aiello. I have a proper motion from Commissioner Sean Aiello and seconded by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote. No, I'm sorry, Commissioner Aiello. I was seeing you as the motion, so I didn't.
Also to speak.
Yeah.
So as you might not know by the uncommon name, this is my mother who's up for this appointment. She is a Williamson County native, graduate of Franklin High School, graduate of Vanderbilt Peabody College of Education with a teaching degree, taught in Franklin Special Schools for decades before going back to get her master's in library sciences, and then finishing out her career as a librarian at Johnson Elementary before retiring. She comes from generations of educators, and her mother worked in the library for a long time as well. So I'm going to be voting my conscience, which unequivocally tells me she is qualified for this position. So, thanks.
I think you might be in trouble if you vote otherwise. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. When it pops up. There we go. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes. Next up is the consent agenda. That should be in your packet. I'll entertain a motion. There we go. And we have a proper motion made by Commissioner Greg Sanford, seconded by Commissioner Mary Smith. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
23 yes, 1 abstain.
Resolution passes. Our motion passes. Moving on to unfinished business, we have 2 resolutions that are being brought back before us. The first one is Resolution 1124-1, which was formerly Resolution 24-1, or 1024-1, and then prior to that, Resolution 924-1, a resolution reaffirming the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning the introduction of resolutions to committee by Williamson County Commissioners. Motion made by Commissioner Christopher Richards, seconded by Commissioner Pete Stresser. The Rules Committee voted 0 in favor and 6 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Richards.
I think most of the commissioners are probably pretty familiar with this resolution by now. It's trying to bring us more in line with the state constitution, the U.S. Constitution, for how resolutions are introduced to committee. However, in my research, I discovered maybe in our rules we already have this, and I do have a question for legal. Do you have a copy of the rules, Jeff?
I do not.
Could you get a copy of the rules, if possible?
Okay.
Section 6.1 states about how resolutions are filed. Section 6.2 then states each chairperson of a standing or special committee shall convene the committee prior to the next regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the purpose of considering those resolutions. What does the those in the resolutions, which resolutions is those referring to?
Those that would be coming to the next commission meeting.
So it's not referring to the ones in 6.1?
Not necessarily. I mean, ultimately, their recommendation would be on resolutions that are introduced pursuant to 6.1. Are you asking, do they have to be signed and filed prior to the committee meeting? And the answer to that's no.
Okay. All right, that's all I've got, if there's any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
4 yes, 20 no.
Resolution fails. Resolution 112430, formerly Resolution 1024-2, which was formerly Resolution 92454, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to grant an easement to Middle Tennessee Electric Membership Corporation. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Lisa Hayes. This came before the full commission last month and was voted on to defer to tonight's meeting. Any questions or comments? Who do I have? Greg Lawrence first. Commissioner Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, the question last month was, is this a requirement in the lease agreement with both towers that we must comply with, or is it not a part of the current lease agreement? Do we have the answer on?
Go ahead,
The mayor has the answer on that.
So if I could ask Kevin Benson to come up. He can't address the lease, but he can address the mechanics. We have actually gone back to Middle Tennessee Electric because they do the servicing of that. So let me, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman,
Absolutely.
let Kevin give you the mechanics, the processes, because he's dealt with the people.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kevin Benson, Property Manager. Today I spoke with Mr. Eric Hale, the Middle Tennessee Electric Easement Engineer at 4 o'clock. And he confirmed that in order to get electricity from an existing pole, which is what the plan is right now, to the tower, will require the property owner, Williamson County, to sign off on the easement. If the easement is not approved by the County Commission, Vogue Towers is fully prepared to bring in an industrial-sized generator to power that tower. That's where we're at right now. So the way the easement request basically works is we have to grant permission for Middle Tennessee to bring equipment and power onto our property. And the process is that the commission, you great folks here tonight, would vote on that. to allow that to happen. And then Rogers Anderson would sign off on that easement with Middle Tennessee Electric, therefore providing power to Vogue Tower. Any questions on the easement?
The next question I have on the board, not sure if it's directed to you, but Commissioner Sanford.
It's not. My question is going to be to legal. Again, I guess what Greg Lawrence asked, is it a requirement of the lease that we provide these people with an easement? Yes or no?
Bobby's done more work on this. I'm going to ask him to field that.
Thank you.
The option and lease agreement does provide, the county will provide them an easement. There was an amendment one that was signed once because Vogue had agreed to move the tower, and then that place wasn't, I guess, agreeable to all the neighborhoods. So what they did was move it again. When they moved it again, we entered into an amendment, Amendment 1, that provided the description of the easement, the 30-foot easement, and the fact that the county will provide them the easement. So there you go.
To follow up on that, Mr. Benson just said if we don't give them the easement, that they're going to bring in industrial generators, right? Threatening they're going to do this, they're going to do that. But yet now legal saying we have to give them the easement. Is that correct?
I'm saying what the contract says. You still have to vote on it.
Okay. I tell them to go pound sand and bring in what they want to pound, and we'll bring in what they want to power it with, and let's roll. So my feeling on it.
Next question from Commissioner Mason.
Thank you. I think my question was answered. It sounds like we previously entered into a contract with them and agreed to provide an easement. Now, whether we grant the easement tonight or not, obviously is up for a vote, but it sounds like we, at least in contract, agreed to do so. So that was what I was wanting to inquire about. Thank you.
Commissioner Herbert.
Oh, Kevin, come back. When you talk about bringing in an industrial generator, how loud are we talking?
Quite loud. It's the size of a generator, probably coming on an 18-wheeler. So that we'll have to position that somewhere on the property, and that will interfere with certain things that do go on that property, being rentals for the family center there, be it the library, be it the senior center, all could be affected by that.
The ball games?
Possibly, yes, ma'am.
Do those generators run constant, or they click on and off?
That generator will run constant to keep that power to that tower.
And they said they are willing to bring one on if we
That's
do
what I
not
was told,
grant.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Mary Smith.
Mayor, I know one of the requests was to possibly talk to Vogue about what it would look like to find another location. Did those conversations happen with Vogue?
So if you follow the bouncing ball, the original location was moved to this current location at the request of the commissioners and other residents to try to get it away from the original area. So Vogue did that. And that's where Bobby is talking about that Amendment 1 or A, whatever that was called. So it has been relocated. In the communication we've had with Vogue, they're not willing to move it again because they've incurred quite a bit of expense to do this. And they have a contract with their telecommunicators, whoever they are, Verizon, AT&T, and all.
Any other questions or comments?
Is there anything that can be done to, in the future, to address the current setback with Vogue Tower? Like, what are the next steps, or is it just going to be there? It's a 5-year lease, right, that we have? 1 year up to 5?
5 years.
So in 5 years, if we vote no to renew the lease, at that point, they'd have to find another location.
I'll let legal answer that.
Mr. Chairman, the term of the lease is 5 years with the ability to automatic renewals for additional 5 years. There is a provision that provides the ability of the county to terminate the option lease agreement after the 5 years, but it's an automatic renewal, so we would have to take the actual action to do that, so.
Okay.
Commissioner Sanford.
Bobby, real quick. I'm no attorney, but if the contract, quote unquote, that was signed and needs an easement that the mayor signed, but yet the commission has to vote on that, how is that legally binding contract that that's a valid contract when the commission still has to vote on the easement?
Because the county mayor does have that authority, and the county commission approved the option lease agreement.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay?
Any other?
Let me add one other thing, because I know you're wrestling with it. Let's go back a couple of years ago. The county commission wanted better communication in our community. I know it's very controversial. Even when we put up towers for our public safety, our own police, our own law enforcement, et cetera, it's always controversial unless it's up on a hill away from everyone. But this body, way back when, wanted to expand the communications, not only through fiber, which many of the companies can do, but through telecommunication also. That doesn't give you, probably doesn't ease the pain that you've got to vote on tonight, but there is a huge need for cellular service, all of the services that we provide for all of the residents in the different parts of the county.
Any other questions or comments regarding Resolution 11-2430? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
16 yes, 8 no.
Resolution passes. Moving on to new business under appropriations, Resolution 11-24-4. Resolution for an inter-category adjustment of $16,781,543 for an approved raise for the 24-25 budget year. Proper motion made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Judy Herbert. The school board was 12-4-0 against, Education Committee 6-4-0 against, Budget Committee 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Herbert.
This is the raise that was approved back in June for the school budget, and it was just put in one line item, and this lets them move it to the correct line items.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. This one had this amendment on my desk. I'll read the motion for the resolution first. Resolution 11-24-5, resolution amending the 24-25 general purpose school fund budget by $1,461,000 for the purchase of buses. Proper motion made by Commissioner Mary Smith, seconded by Commissioner Guffey. School board was 12-4-0 against. Education Committee was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Herbert.
This needs an amendment. Do you want me to read the amendment?
Go ahead if you don't mind.
Okay. Resolution amending the 2024-2025 general purpose school fund budget by $981,000 and the educational impact fee fund by $480,000 for a total expenditure of $1,461,000 for the purchase of buses.
I have a proper motion made by Commissioner Herbert and seconded, I guess, by Commissioner Torres.
The entirety of it.
Do they need to read the rest of it?
Or state that the rest of it is at their desk.
Okay. The rest of it is at your desk, but I will state it for the record and for the recording. Amend the now therefore be it resolved as follows. Now therefore be it resolved that the Williamson County Board of Commissioners, meeting in regular session on November 12, 2024, approves the expenditure of $1,461,000 for the purchase of school buses as follows. Then it lists the revenue items there before you. Fund balance, $981,000. Reserve for education, $480,000. Impact, $1,461,000. Equipment transportation, $981,000. Contributions, $480,000. for a total, again, of $1,461,000. Any questions or comments on the amendment? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote on the amendment, if you're in favor of the amendment, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
The amendment passes, which brings us back to the resolution. Again, resolution amending the 24-25 general purpose school fund budget by $1,461,000 for the purchase of buses. I believe we had already had a motion and a second on that one. So any questions or comments now that we're on the motion for the resolution as amended? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-24-6, resolution appropriating and amending the 24-25 general sessions budget, revenues received in prior fiscal year from state of Tennessee and unappropriated county general fund balance. Proper motion made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Cheryl Brown. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Herbert.
This was a grant from last year that was not exhausted, and we're moving it, rolling it into this year to be used.
Any questions? The screen's not showing, so raise your hand if you have any questions, I guess. Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-24-7, resolution appropriating and amending the 24-25 Sheriff's Office budget by $127,200. Revenues to come from Law Enforcement Training Program. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Drew Torres. Law Enforcement was 3-4-0 against. Budget Committee 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Tunnicliffe.
Yeah, the Tennessee Peace Officers Standard and Training Commission has had extra funds, I guess, and they're willing to award Williamson County another $127,200. And we will go ahead and pass, or the sheriff will go ahead and pass those on in the term of $800 retention bonuses to those deputies that have qualified for that.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-24-8, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a letter of agreement with the State of Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration and appropriating and amending the 24-25 Sheriff's Office budget by $190,136. Revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Judy Herbert, seconded by Commissioner Cheryl Brown. The Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Herbert.
This is a grant from the state of Tennessee, and it funds mental health transport for the Sheriff's Department. It does not require any matching funds.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-24-9, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a grant contract with the Tennessee State Museum on behalf of the Williamson County Archives and Museum and appropriating and amending the 24-25 Archives and Museum budget by $30,492. Revenues to come from state grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Greg Sanford. Property Committee was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
You can see this is a grant to cover floor covering expenses, and it does not require any match.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Hester. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-24-10, resolution appropriating and amending the 24-25 library budget by $2,500. Revenues to come from donations and memorials. Proper motion made by Commissioner Greg Sanford, seconded by Commissioner Cheryl Brown. Library Board was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
This is a grant from the Autism Tennessee, will be used for purchasing items to be made available to library patrons. And we have members of the library staff here if anyone has any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-2411, resolution appropriating and amending the 24-25 library budget by $27,400. Revenues to come from donations and memorials. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. Library Board was 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
As you can see, this is a generous donation from the Williamson County Library Foundation. This supports the summer reading program and other initiatives going on at our county library.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-2412, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a grant contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development and appropriating and amending the 24-25 Office of Public Safety budget not to exceed $450,000. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. The Law Enforcement Committee was 3-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Tunnicliffe.
Yeah, these funds are dedicated to designing better fleet operations management systems for the county schools, Franklin Special School District, transportation programs, and others in the county. There is no match needed on these funds with Vanderbilt.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-2413, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute agreements with certain organizations providing opioid remediation and abatement services and appropriating funds for those services. Appropriations to come from opioid abatement funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. The committees were Public Health, 6-4-0 against. Budget Committee, 5-4-0 against. Opioid Task Force, 7-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Herbert.
This authorizes the county mayor to execute an agreement for the opioid abatement funds, and they will be going to the Volunteer Behavioral Health Care, Cumberland Heights, Mercy Community Health Care, Oak Cottage for Women, DUI Recovery Court, Veterans Court, and Juvenile Court.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Late filed resolution 11-2435, resolution authorizing a grant contract between Williamson County, Tennessee and the State of Tennessee, Tennessee Opioid Abatement Council on behalf of the Williamson County Veterans Treatment Court and amending the 24-25 Veterans Treatment Court budget by $120,677. Revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Thank you. This will go to the Veterans Treatment budget, and note that there are no matching funds are required, and this is part of a larger grant. This is just this year's portion, the $120,667.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Late filed resolution 11-2436, resolution authorizing a grant contract between Williamson County, Tennessee and the State of Tennessee Corrections Institute on behalf of the Williamson County Sheriff's Office and amending the 24-25 Sheriff's Office budget by $14,998.50. Revenues to come from grant funds. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown and seconded by Commissioner Greg Sanford. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Mr. Chair, this grant is for training equipment that will be used by the Sheriff's Department, and there is no requirement for a match.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
The next resolution was pulled, 1124-2. 1124-3 was also pulled. On to 1124-14. A resolution requesting the 114th session of the Tennessee General Assembly to allocate 1/2 of the real estate transfer tax to the county where the tax was collected on a reoccurring basis. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Paul Webb. The Tax Study Committee was 4-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation on this one, I believe, goes to Commissioner Tunnicliffe or Webb.
I think it goes to Webb, Mr. Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes,
The chart went out, Mr. Whitby sent this under separate cover. The chart, if you look at that chart, or had a chance to look at it, you'll see that it has a 4-year history of how much the property transaction fee is in each county. And I'll highlight the fiscal year 2024 as an example. Davidson County was 58 million, almost 59 million. So that gives you an idea of the value of this tax. Shelby County was 26.5 million. And Williamson County in that same period was 30,876,000. So what we're asking is that the state reapportion this tax and return half of that collected in the counties, specifically Williamson County, to us, that we may use it to help fund services for the citizens. We think this will go to our delegation, and hopefully they will carry it, and this will help us in the various revenue areas. Now, we'll note this is non-recurring funds, Mr. Chair, so if it passes the state legislature, whatever the amount is, we do not need to pay recurring expenses for it. But maybe I'm getting ahead of the horse here. We would just like to ask our delegation to carry this for us to help us with the revenue in a rapidly growing county.
Absolutely. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 112415, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a memorandum of understanding with Vanderbilt University. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown and seconded by Commissioner Lisa Hayes. Law Enforcement Committee was 3-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Tunnicliffe.
Yeah, this memorandum of understanding is got lost there, is for the provision of services by Vanderbilt University in the completion of the transportation project, and will help us in Williamson County with schools, Franklin Special, as well as Transit Authority for Franklin. Memorandum of understanding requires no matching funds on our part to participate.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 112417, resolution appropriating a new compliance officer position for the Williamson County DUI Recovery Court. Proper motion made by Commissioner O'Neill and seconded by Commissioner Webb. The Law Enforcement Committee was 3-4-0 against. Human Resources was 4-4-0 against. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
As you see, Mr. Chair, this is under the DUI Recovery Courts, a 3-year grant to fund a new compliance officer position. This will fund the position for 3 years, and I think we had someone here that could explain if anybody had any questions, but she just left, I believe. Anyway,
there she is.
Oh, there we go. If we have any questions?
Any questions on this resolution? I see none. If you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Hayes. There we go. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
We have 23 yes, 0 no, 1 absent. Commissioner Tunnicliff absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-2418, resolution to adopt the amended Williamson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan conditioned on approval from FEMA and authorize the county mayor to sign all documentation required to maintain compliance for the purpose of qualifying for certain federal grants. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. The Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Herbert.
This just approves the amended Williamson County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan and authorizes the mayors to sign it so we can qualify for certain grants.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Hayes?
Sorry.
It's all right. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
23 yes, 0 no, 1 absent. Commissioner Tunnicliff absent.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-2419, resolution to permit the temporary serving of alcohol at the Williamson County Library for the Williamson County Library Foundation's fundraising event. What's the other name for this? No, I can't. Yeah. The proper motion is made by Commissioner Steve Smith, seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. The library board was 6-4-0 against. Property committee did not meet. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Mr. Chair, in order to serve any kind of alcohol beverage in a public building, we must ask your approval. The Library Foundation wishes to sell this at their fundraising event to be held at the Main County Library on Thursday, February 20th, 2025. So we ask your approval for that. We do have members of the Library Board and the Foundation here to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, is that a question from, no, I'm sorry. That was the motion. If you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
21 yes, 3 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-2420, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a lease agreement with the Franklin Lions Club for lease of space in the County Community Services Building. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. Property Committee was 5-4-0 against with 1 abstention. Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
This is a request by the Franklin Lions Club to use some of the available space in the Community Services Building at 129 West Folk Street to the furtherance of their mission.
Any questions? I have a question from Commissioner Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Not a question. I'd like to propose an amendment here. Well, first of all, let me ask council, could I propose an amendment to suggest a lease rate on this resolution?
Sure.
Okay. All right, so Kevin Benson has done a lot of work on this and put together, which I appreciate, Kevin, your work getting us these numbers. So basically, we found out our cost on this building is about $2.59 per square foot. So I'm just going to propose tonight that we move the lease rates, and these leases, in my opinion, need to be changed as they come up to be more equitable. I think we've got some differences in the discrepancies in some of the leases there, and the fair way to do it, in my opinion, would just be simply to pass our cost on to these nonprofits, and they all do great work, and we all support them, but this is the fair, in my opinion, the fair way to do it. It's still going to be about 10% of market rate if you were to go out and get a lease in a commercial office building. Most likely it would be 10 times this amount. So it's still a great rate for the leasees in the building. So I would propose an amendment to move the lease rate for this resolution to $2.75 per square foot.
I have a proper motion. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Stresser. Any questions or comments on the proposed amendment? Have a first question up from Commissioner Brian Clifford.
Have we got terms or prices yet?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I had another comment.
I'm sorry.
What is
What's the current lease look like? Have we gotten to terms and prices yet, or is this just giving you the authority to
Just gives me
start
the
talking about it?
And it varies from one group, the ability to pay. The only reason I came up here, I hope I answered your question.
I think so.
Because we built that building some 30 years ago for the community to use. There's childcare there. There's many, many different groups are there. Some have 100 square feet. It's just room for desks, just so they can run their operations out of there. They have to provide us insurance and all that. Mr. Chairman, through you, could I ask if on the commissioner's resolution, you will allow that to occur at the renewing time of the lease, which most of them, I think, are July. Diane, you and Carolyn, is that?
It varies.
It does vary, okay. When it comes up for renewal, if this passes, then let me adjust it then. If otherwise, I'm having to go in and spend a lot of legal fees to get people to change, if they will change.
Okay, do we need to make?
I think the amendment as made was to this resolution, which is only for this lease.
Okay. Yes, but I would suggest that my suggestion is that we move it to that rate for everybody eventually, just to make it equitable. But I couldn't do that on this resolution, correct? Okay, all right. So do I need to change the verbiage?
No, I think that the amendment as proposed was to change the lease rate to $2.75 square feet for this resolution, which is the Lions Club lease. You would have to make that amendment to any other lease that come up. And I think with your direction to the mayor, if he accepts that, that he will put that in any renewals or new leases that come up. But you can't, we don't have a vehicle in front of us tonight to set that as a base rate across all leases.
Okay, but I guess, Mayor, was that what you were you suggesting we not change this one tonight and wait till July?
This is a new lease.
Okay, so this one's not coming up in July, correct?
No, I wasn't suggesting that. I'm trying to anticipate that the next phone call or the next email would be change them all.
All right.
And we have leases in place
Right.
that I have to address. Whatever you do, honestly, Kevin, do you have what we have told these people they could have? But until you all agree with it, that's just what we'll have to change it.
Okay.
You know what it is with these two tonight?
Yes, we've got $25 per suite on the current resolution that we're talking. Then there's another resolution that's coming up. Let's get the numbers here. $25 per year is the next resolution.
So what is the difference? What'd you say, something?
$275 a square foot. Do you know what the square footage on those suites are?
The square footage for the Lions Club is 378. It's two suites, two small suites. And then for the next lease, it's coming up 126 square feet.
Okay.
Do you have a follow-up?
No.
I have another question from Commissioner Sean Aiello on the amendment.
On the amendment?
Yeah.
You said 275. This handout that I've got talks about 259 per square foot for operating. Is that?
That's what the cost is. I just adjusted it up to 275. But our costs are 259. And I'm assuming, Kevin, that probably doesn't include for things like amortizing for roofs and parking lots and those kind of things.
It does, sir. If you look at what you received two pieces of documents today.
Okay.
This is the 1 year of everything, including parking lots, including roofs.
Okay.
And then the other document was just the occupants of the CSB.
Okay.
And I would say, Commissioners, I'm very proud of my organization and my techs and how they got the operation cost at $2.59. Franklin going cost per square foot for office space is $300 a square foot. And we're able to take care of that building, which is 20 years old almost, and doing a good job at it. And the tenants are somebody I want to thank as well, because they take care of their spaces in the building as well.
Yeah. So So the 275 was in anticipation that the costs are going to go up a little bit over time. So if we adjust it to 275, we'll cover our costs going forward, maybe for several years.
And then I had a follow-up for Mr. Benson. So if I'm looking at the handout, I see the lease year column, and then also the lease/square foot column. And in the lease year, it says 45,853. Is that the current annual lease number?
Yes, that's what we're currently bringing in, and then you'll see the next number to the right is if it was at $200 or $2.59 a square foot, it would come to that cost.
So just a little bit of a difference of $20,000.
Right now, that's where we're at.
All right. And I just want to comment on the amendment, I suppose. I appreciate the spirit of it, and I do think that we need to look at these leases. But I'm not interested in nickel and diming these kind of organizations over $20,000. The services they provide to the community, I can't support the amendment. But I do appreciate where it's coming from, trying to save the county money.
Next question comes from Commissioner Cheryl Brown.
This is hard for me to hear this because I know the work that we do in that building and how the nonprofits in that building serve our county of Williamson County, which is the 10th, richest county in the nation. And a lot of the funds, it's feast or famine, because sometimes grant money doesn't come in. And I mentioned the other night how we have 2 grants that are pending that we've already got approved for, and it's been 6 months. 6 months that we have not gotten those grants as of yet. But to think that the daycare, if you increase this money, these funds, just to pay for that building, then the daycare will have to pass that cost over to the people who are already struggling. And so I really think we need to think about this when it comes to people serving the community. Thank you.
Commissioner Paul Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following up on Commissioner Brown, the value of the nonprofits is very hard to determine. And to put market pressure on a nonprofit, as Ms. Brown alluded to, when they're out asking for donations to keep their programs going, let's keep in mind those programs benefit our community. And you may look at some of these programs, well, maybe they don't benefit me, but they benefit the community. And so if we raise the rate as proposed here, and I understand transactional, that, but when we subsidize these rates, we're getting something in return. The volunteers of these various organizations are out there doing something in the community that we, the county, might end up having to pay for. Now, I'm going to give you an example from the city of Brentwood. It's about sports, but I think it will relate. They don't have a recreation department, but they have a parks department. And so the parks department keeps the parks up. And items like the Brentwood Blaze football, or the Brentwood Baseball Club for baseball and softball, or the YMCA for soccer and basketball, they use the Brentwood facilities. They don't pay for them. They use those facilities because they're providing a program for the citizens of the area, in this case, Brentwood. But it also saves the city of Brentwood money because they're not having to staff a recreation department to schedule games and to keep the fields and stuff up during those games, because many of these volunteers, as part of the former Brentwood baseball, which is Brentwood Civitan, I raked the field and ran concessions. So you bring people together. But if we put a dollar amount on this as it's a transactional basis rather than a service basis, we, as Commissioner Brown said, will probably run some of these out of business because they don't have enough donations to support this level of rent. And then those services will either be dropped totally or they will come back on the city and county and state to provide. So these nonprofits provide a valuable service. As I suggested during the committee meeting, we were talking about this. you know, if you think that the program is valuable, but you think they should pay a little bit more in rent, in this case, the $275 or $259, then go to your church. Churches have lots of space that's underused, and they can be a home to a lot of nonprofit. So maybe that is the solution. The unused space in the charitable organizations already out there, especially the religious organizations, can help in this. And then we can do something else. But I think on a small adjustment, if you want to adjust this a few $100s a year, I'm okay with that. But I think this one is a little too extreme for these two that we're looking at tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mary Smith.
Yeah, in Budget Committee when this came up, I think one of the things that I had suggested is that, because I have been to the community child care, I've been over to the building, and, you know, my brothers went to Boys and Girls Club when they were kids, and so I understand the value they bring to the community. I would be concerned about raising the rate on those organizations because of just the impact it would have. What I had suggested is possibly reaching out to the organizations and see if they had the ability to possibly pay more for their leases, if they, you know, were financially able to. I don't know every single one of these organizations, but I also know that there's some that are paying quite a bit more than just the $259 a square foot, and there's some paying considerably less than that. So I'm not sure how the lease amounts come to be, but that was what I had suggested, is not just going across the board, but actually just working with the organizations to see who had the fiscal ability to pay more on their leases. And the other thing I did want to bring up too is just understanding. It would be good if we understood how these leases are provided, because it does, in a sense, like I said, I don't know who these organizations are, but I know there's a lot of organizations in need, and it feels a little bit like we're picking the winners and the losers. So I just want to make sure that there's a clear process on how you apply to be able to lease property in this building. Thank you.
Commissioner Hester.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, you can be penny wise and pound poor. I'd suggest that some people who are served by these situations, I would like to say, especially the Boys and Girls Club, all of these nonprofits, you have to consider the amount of money we would pay a year for someone to be incarcerated in our jail system. And that would be about $40,000 a year, at least. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Herbert.
I'm going to agree with Commissioner Cheryl Brown. These nonprofits are working on a shoestring, and it really, I just cannot believe as wealthy as this county is. If Meals on Wheels, I'm going to use that as an example, if they have to pay a high rent, that's that many less elderly people they're going to feed. And you're talking what this costs is not but a couple of dimes to each resident in this community. And if these people in this community cannot give less than $1 to take care of the people that are less fortunate, then we become in a bad state. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Commissioner Stresser.
I think specifically with the amendment, one thing that's kind of an eye-opening thing for me to look at, we saw some of this in the property committee. I think there were a lot of great comments, and I agree with quite a few of them. But you do see these lease rates really all over the place. And I think it would make sense to have more of a kind of common sense approach to that. Some pay a lot more than others. So I think the spirit of having some kind of very low base rate that makes sense, where at least all these charitable organizations that we're talking about are at least treated fairly and the same, because when it comes to the leases right now, they're not. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Tunnicliffe.
I guess my question is, and Mayor, maybe you can answer this, I assume these rates are done by their ability to pay?
Mr. Chairman, answer your question specifically, yes. Oftentimes they come in, or they come through Kevin and come into our office, and they're trying to get a grant. They're having to wait on a grant. I don't disagree with stabilizing some of those. It's just very difficult. You take the after-school program, the daycare. Many of those students are in there. Their parents or their dad or their mom is in one of those other rooms over there through some kind of court system. So it's not a science. It's just trying to be fair, trying to be equitable, trying to help out these organizations. And honestly, they come and go. We happen to have these two rooms open because somebody else couldn't afford to keep them. And it's just a tough call. But if y'all give the direction, that's what we'll do. But I think part of our commitment back to the county, and most of these are in Franklin, folks. Most of them are in Franklin, but you as a county are helping the community, but most of that's in Franklin. And nobody else does this for them.
Commissioner Sturgeon.
Thank you, Chairman. I kind of agree with Commissioner Stresser that it's hard to be fair, and it's very subjective who gets to pay $1 and who gets to pay $2,400. And I think it's uncomfortable to have the government making that call with taxpayer money. So I believe these are valuable, at least some of the ones I recognize on here seem very, very valuable, but it's just not up to the government to be picking who gets it and who doesn't. I mean, how do we know there aren't more worthy causes that could be taken care of with taxpayer money in this building? What's the appeal? What's the application process? And who makes the final call? And when they say, I can only afford $1, do we look at their tax records or something to see if that makes any sense? Or is it who they know or who got in line first? I just don't like this, and it's not because I don't like charities or nonprofits. It's I don't like the way it's being applied. So I probably will not be voting for this. I mean, I will be voting for the amendment if it stays. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Any other questions or comments on the amendment? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote on the amendment, if you're in favor of the amendment, press your yes button. If you oppose the amendment, press your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Sanford, O'Neill. Yeah. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
8 yes, 16 no.
The amendment fails. Brings us back to the resolution itself. Any questions or comments on the resolution? My screen's not showing, Diane. Or who would that be? If you have a question, raise your hand. My screen's not showing. I'm seeing none. Okay, if you're ready to vote on the resolution, if you're in favor of Resolution 11-2420, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
18 yes, 3 no, 3 abstain.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-2421, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to execute a lease agreement with the Tennessee Resilience Project for a lease of a space in the County Community Services Building. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, and it disappeared before I saw the second. I think it was Commissioner Guffey. Does that sound right? Commissioner Webb, sorry. The Budget Committee was 5-4-0 against. The Property Committee was 5-4-0 against with 1 abstention. Explanation, please, Commissioner Webb.
Very similar to what we just discussed, Mr. Chair, and the lease is very similar to what we just looked at as well.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
18 yes, 1 no, 5 abstain.
Resolution passes. Resolution 112422, resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the, was this one pulled? I'm sorry. This one was pulled. And the next one was also pulled, that being 112423, which brings us to 112424. Resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning censure of commissioners. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Tunnicliffe. The Rules Committee was 4 for, and 2 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Aiello.
This came before the Rules Committee regarding setting a policy and procedure for chair and commission ability to censor commissioners for conduct within a commission meeting. Very specific in its application and its limitation. Right now, my understanding is there really isn't a mechanism under the rules. But I will defer any questions regarding this one to council who helped draft.
Any questions or comments? Question from Commissioner Richards.
This is for council. I did some research on this, and I have a question for you. The legal concept of prior restraint, do you know how that might affect the enforcement of this resolution?
I don't think it would come into play here. I think that the commission has the ability in a limited forum to regulate the conduct of its affairs. I do think that it can't be discriminatory on a facial basis in terms of content discrimination. And I think that prior restraint doesn't come up because that is an action that stops the speech prior to the speech taking place. This does not. This is a mechanism for regulation of speech within the meaning of the commission rules.
Okay, so you don't think it's preventing commissioners from speaking their mind?
No, I do not.
Okay. Second question is, and this legal, you might end up having to do some research on this, I don't know. The Supreme Court has ruled in Houston Community College versus Wilson. It was actually a censure case, which they did affirm a governing body's right to censure, but they gave it limitations. The court distinguished between verbal censures and actions that materially impact an official's ability to carry out their duties. This suggested that while you might face verbal criticism, actions that prevent you from performing your job or exercising your right could still be challenged. You do also, via the Supreme Court, says you continue your right to debate. The ruling upholds your right to continue participating in debates and discussions even if you've been censured or criticized by colleagues. I don't know if you want to take some time and look at that legal ruling.
I'll be happy to. I mean, it would be appreciated if you're going to ask me to opine on a Supreme Court case if you provide it prior to the meeting so I can actually read the case, Commissioner. I can't comment on a case I haven't read.
I understand. I just discovered this today.
Yeah.
Any other? Go ahead.
I was going to ask, should we defer? I'm making a motion to defer.
I have a motion, you defer for certain reasons or just to defer in general?
For him to do his research on this Supreme Court case.
A motion to defer requires a date. Do you have a date in mind?
The January meeting.
I have a motion to defer this resolution to the January meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Stresser. I have several questions on the board. I'll go take them in order, but ask if they are questions related to the motion to defer.
They're gone.
And they're gone. Any questions on the motion to defer? Seeing none, we need to get that loaded. In a moment when it's loaded, if you're in favor of deferring this resolution to January, you will signify by pressing your yes button. If you're opposed to deferring it, signify by pressing your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
12 yes, 12 no.
Does not pass. The deferral fails.
All right, the deferral fails. And we're back to the motion, and I know there were some questions on the board prior. I'll try to remember the order of them if they don't pop up in the same order. My screen's not yet, there they are. Okay, I have Commissioner Mason.
Thank you. Perhaps I need this broken down in layman's terms for me, but what exactly would a censor look like? For example, we're in the meeting as we are now. I start doing something that Chairman Bether believes should be censored. Does he bang the gavel? Is my microphone cut off? Like, how would this actually work in a meeting?
The way this resolution is fashioned, the censure, which is, for lack of a better term, a public reprimand, and does not affect any of the other rights or obligations of the commissioner. The second phase of this resolution has a censor element to it that would allow the microphone to be cut off if there was a continuation of violation of the rules of the county commission. So the censure is basically a public admonishment of the commissioner for violation of the county commission rules.
And does it roll over? So if I were censured part A in this meeting, and then in part B, if I do it again, or sorry, the second meeting, do I roll into part B, or does it renew each meeting?
A censor, as drafted, is related only to one item on the agenda. It is not a carryover effect that.
Okay. And are there any guardrails or bumpers, or is it completely up to the commission chair to determine if I have violated any?
A ruling by the chair can be overruled by a majority of the county commission itself.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Next question I have is from Commissioner Clifford.
Thank you, Chairman. A censure seems to be a pretty serious thing to happen to an elected official. I'm concerned that giving the chair alone the power to censor any elected official seems a little unreasonable to me. I'm more comfortable with the majority of the commission taking a vote and censoring an elected official. And I think we've seen censors at the city level. I think there was an alderman that was recently censored, but I think that was based on a vote of the board of mayor and aldermen and not just by the mayor, who I think sits as the chair of the BOMA. I would like to make a motion to remove the language in 4.8A after the first word board, remove the words in the chairperson's discretion, comma, or. And then in B, at the end of the second to last sentence, where it says continued violations may result in a broader censure, I would like to add to the end of that sentence, as approved by a majority vote of the Board of Commissioners.
I have a proper motion to make two adjustments. Seconded by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon. Any questions or comments on the motion to amend the resolution in those two areas? I have a question from Commissioner Mary Smith. Is that on the motion? Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to further amend to be a 2/3 majority, if possible. So an amendment to the amendment to do 2/3 majority.
You can have two amendments on the floor, so this would be an amendment to the amendment. Limited to the addition of the words 2/3 prior to majority in 4.8B, as I hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think I'm both of them.
All right.
So, yeah, anytime there's the majorities there, it'd be 2/3 majority. I think it's both on A and B.
A and B, okay.
The risk of staff taking this correctly to those, or whoever, either roll call with the clerk or voice or whichever, because
Okay.
I just, we can amend language.
Well, she's got it up now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not gonna be specific.
I don't have a second yet. So I have a amendment to amend the amendment, a motion to amend the amendment. Do I hear a second on that to change the wording further to say 2/3 of the Board of Commissioners? Seconded by Commissioner Lisa Hayes. So now, are there questions on the motion to amend the amendment? Again, this is a motion to amend the amendment to add the verbiage of 2/3 to the county commissioners that would require to do the censor or censor. And I have a question from Commissioner Paul Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a question to council to help me understand what we're trying to do here. Can you relate this to what happened in the Tennessee State House last year where they censured elected legislators? We had elected legislators that were censored and eventually evicted. But if I recall right, if they misbehaved, in the opinion of the chairman, they could be, I don't know if they called it censure, but I'm trying to understand what we're trying to do. And in my frame of mind, I'm going back to what happened at the State House last year. Does that relate to this?
This is a lesser punishment than what happened in the State House where they were removed from their seats. And I'm not sure we have the power to do that. What this does is that, again, the public censure or admonition, and then the limitation of your ability to gain the floor is the censure. So it's lesser punishments than what happened at the state. It is on the same basis of violation of rules of the body that is disruptive to the operation of the body. That would be the main basis for the action.
Did that relate, did the House vote on that, or was that at the discretion of the Speaker?
I don't remember how the state did that. I think it was by vote of the majority.
Okay, thank you.
But that's speculative. That's me trying to remember, and I'm not.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Sturgeon.
That's what I want to know.
Chairman, I would just like to ask Chairman Beathard, what prompted this resolution? What problem are we trying to fix here? Because in the last 10 years I've been here, I don't think we've even had a situation where this would apply to it. But, and maybe I trust you. I don't know if I trust the next chairman. I don't know. So I'm wondering, are you allowed to answer that question?
Without objection.
Without objection, I think I can answer. If there's no objection from the other commissioners, I'll try to answer Barb Sturgeon's question.
My question is, does it pertain to the amendment?
Yeah, I think it does.
To the fact that it's 2/3, or just to the fact that the resolution is being presented at all? 'Cause if it's to the 2/3, let me answer it later.
I think it
I mean, if it's to the
impacts.
resolution,
I think it
let me answer
impacts on whether we take you out of the equation or not, which is what the amendment does.
That's the
So,
First
yeah,
Amendment,
I
not
think
the
it-
2/3 though. The 2/3 does not remove him from the equation. That was the First Amendment. This
Okay.
is amending the amendment. This is only adding
Well-
the 2/3 limitation on the majority.
So he can't answer my question, because we're
He
only
can
allowed to
after
talk
we
about the
After we address the
2/3.
amendments, yes.
Whatever.
I can and will after the vote on the amendment. Any other questions on the motion to amend the amendment? Seeing none, if it's loaded, again, the question before you now is to amend the amendment to also include, in addition to Brian Clifford's amendment, the additional verbiage of it requiring a 2/3 instead of a simple majority of commissioners to be enacted in both paragraphs A and B. If you're in favor of that motion to amend the amendment, signify by pressing your yes button. If you're opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
16 yes, 8 no.
So the amendment, the motion to amend the amendment passes. We're now back to the original amendment, which was to remove, in the chairman's discretion, from both paragraphs A and B. Are there any questions regarding that amendment, which now would include the 2/3 verbiage as well?
It also added the as approved by language here.
And it added, yes, and as approved by...
Now 2/3.
By now a 2/3 majority vote. And I have a question from Commissioner Sturgeon. I'll try, so this and the next several resolutions came about from a meeting I had with council to try to explore what-if scenarios so that I was made more clear of what I could do to control a meeting should something happen that I, like you, have never seen happen in the past. But should it occur, I would rather know what I was legally allowed to do, or my predecessor, those following me, would be allowed to do rather than it be vague. The resolutions, as I mentioned at the Rules Committee meeting, were set up to be brainstorming, questions. The intent was to get us thinking and debating as we are now as to what you guys would expect a chairman to do should somebody do something that was grossly in violation of our rules, or maybe even maliciously trying to prevent us from carrying out the will of the people. So that was the intent. I'm not married to any of them, and any changes that you guys wish to see in any of them are certainly fine with me. But the intent with this and the resolutions that precede it were simply to have a little stronger guideline in place, not only for myself, but for future chairs, to know what they can and cannot do should those situations arise that we hope never do arise. And with that, my next question goes to Commissioner Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It seems to me like we're making this more vague by taking the language out about the chairperson's discretion. So I guess my question would be, how would this work if we're going to say 2/3 majority have to agree that somebody's out of line, but it has to be brought, would somebody have to bring counsel? So one of the commissioners would have to bring a what?
A motion to censure.
A motion to censure to the floor. Okay. All right.
The chair would not be able to do it.
The chair would not be able to do it?
According to this amendment.
Correct.
Okay. All
So
right.
this amendment would make that decision based on another commissioner other than the chairman requesting a motion to censure.
Correct.
Okay.
And
all right. Thank you.
the following amendment we already voted on would now require that to take 2/3 of a vote instead of a simple
Correct.
majority. Next question goes to Commissioner Aiello. Is that right? No, it's Commissioner Clifford.
Thank you, Chairman. Reading the resolution a little deeper and council helping me to underline some things that might be impacted by removing the chairperson, there might be a few things additional we need to remove from 4.8A, the last sentence. Censure by the chairperson is subject to overruling by a majority of the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, moved sentence, right?
Would be duplicative.
Correct. Perhaps the first sentence of
Can
B.
he change his amendment and get the second to agree? Or do we need to go through the whole thing again? I'm told you can change your amendment, and if the second agrees. Who was the second on that one? Commissioner Sturgeon. So you wish to change your amendment to also remove the last line in paragraph A, 4A, paragraph A?
Correct.
And Commissioner Sturgeon, you agree with that change? Okay. So
And
that
then
amendment has been amended or changed. My next question on the board is to Commissioner Lisa Hayes.
I'm sorry, Chairman. Can I have,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I have some
Yeah.
additional thoughts
Oh,
here.
okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just to clean it up. The first sentence in B.
Yes, you're right. Does that one also meet your approval, Commissioner Sturgeon?
And then one last final one, Chairman.
We're just removing any reference to the chairperson, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Or the unilateral authority to issue a censure. The second sentence in B. I'm sorry, give me 1 second here.
Should I, what if I offered this, Commissioner Clifford, to alter your amendment to simply remove all aspects to the resolution that would give any authority to the chairperson to make the motion for censure?
Well, I believe the chair should have the ability to make a motion for censure, but the approval of that censure should be limited to a 2/3 vote of the commission. I wouldn't want to remove the chair from being able to place the motion for censure like any other commissioner, but not to be able to make the motion and approve it unilaterally.
The chair is the problem. Procedurally, the chair cannot make motions from the chair. That's the problem with if you remove the discretion in the rule for the chair to impose it. This was drafted as a negative veto. In other words, the chair would make the initial determination subject to a majority vote of the commission, which could overrule him, which is fairly standard for rulings of the chair. That's why it was drafted the way it was. You've now changed that to a 2/3 majority, so if you do not remove the chairperson from the equation, it was the 2/3 was only on this amendment. If this amendment goes down, the 2/3 goes away as well. If this amendment goes through, then you've removed the commission, the chair's discretion in implementing it. It could only be implemented by a commissioner who has the right to make a motion, and it would be subject to a 2/3 vote, as currently proposed.
Okay, understood. So in B, removing the entire first sentence, and then in the second sentence of B, replacing chairman with
Commission.
Board of Commissioners.
Starting to hit your request to speak button if you wish to speak. Oh, you did? Oh, I'm sorry. You're next after.
Can I
Anything
just
else?
clarify one thing?
Let me make sure Commissioner Clifford is finished.
I think that's all, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hayes.
Who's on first, who's on second? Can we get this typed out, what you want it to say? Because honestly, I don't know, I'm in circles. You want to remove this, you want to add that? Could we take maybe a short break and have somebody type it up so we can read it and understand? Because I'm not going to vote on something I can't understand because it's been verbalized. I'm just trying to be fair.
Just so happens I could use a restroom break. So
Fantastic.
It's all right with everyone. We'll take 5 minutes for Commissioner
Here, here.
Clifford to get with Jamie to.
Thank you, Chair.
How do you type it on? What do you type it on?
How does she load stuff? To load the amendment.
100%. 100%.
Order. I believe we have the amended amendment loaded,
Printed here.
and it is printed on your screen. If all the commissioners can return to their seats. I don't think I have a quorum, but.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mhm.
Passing out trick or treat candy instead of. Bang your dad.
While the commissioners are returning to their seats, I guess I'll read it and then ask Barbara Sturgeon if she still has the second, right? Or agrees with it as if she seconded the first one.
This is, yeah.
Okay.
I think she's already agreed with it. We were just trying to get it
I
clarified.
think you've lost control.
Yeah. Commissioner Webb, we're in the meeting now. Commissioner O'Neill. Okay, I'm going to, as everybody hands out their candy, I'm going to read the new, the amendment as made by Commissioner Clifford in the wording that he is setting the amendment to us to consider. And it was seconded by Commissioner Sturgeon, so after I read it, I'll ask Commissioner Sturgeon if she still holds the second or agrees to seconding it. Either way, this wording has adopted the 2/3 majority vote that was earlier voted on when the other amendment was made by Commissioner Mary Smith. And it is worded as follows, changing 4.8, censure and censor. Number A, or letter A, censure of a commissioner may be made by a two-thirds majority vote of the Board of Commissioners when a commissioner is continuously acting in violation of the Board of Commissioners rules and regulations. Paragraph B, if the commissioner's violations are limited to one item on the agenda, the Board of Commissioners may choose to censure the commissioner for only that agenda item. However, continued violations may result in broader censure as approved by, again, 2/3 majority vote of the commissioners. A censured commissioner can still vote but cannot gain the floor for purpose of speaking. That's the amendment made by Commissioner Clifford. Commissioner Sturgeon, do you still second that amendment? Any questions or comments on the amendment as worded? And my screen's not. I have a question from Commissioner Mason. She raised her hand. Why is my screen
I
not-
want to be clear because legal said something earlier. By not having the chairperson in here, even though it says commissioners, only 23 of us could motion for this, correct? Because the chairperson cannot. So can we add, and this is a question, if we said everywhere it says Board of Commissioners, could we say chairperson or Board of Commissioners? So that gives us 24 people able to make the motion. I just hate to exclude the chairperson as somebody to make the motion. They don't have any more power than any other commissioner, but the way this is written, they're not allowed to make the motion.
Technically, the chair could relinquish the chair for the purposes of making a motion as it is drafted. And the pro tem would take over for the purpose of allowing the chairman to do that. That would be the procedure. What you're proposing would be to add those words would allow him to make the motion from the chair.
From the chair.
Which you can, as a body, to decide to do. It basically sets a different standard than Roberts, and that's fine. You've got the ability to do that.
Well, I think it's important that the chair also have the authority to make the motion from the chair, because having to relinquish it, go sit back over there, hand it over to the vice chair, I just feel like that's a little ridiculous. And so I would just ask, and I know everybody's going to groan when I say this, to amend it to where it says Board of Commissioners, it says the chairperson or Board of Commissioners. So again, 24 people then could have the option to make that motion.
If I could make a suggestion.
Yes.
As opposed to trying to do it that way, you could simply add a sentence at the end of A that says the chair may make a motion for censure.
Perfect. That achieves that purpose. I just want 24 people to have the same equal authority to make the motion.
This is an amendment to the amendment.
An amendment to the amendment again.
Yeah, so an amendment to the amendment that's already been amended. I have a motion to do that. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Commissioner Lisa Hayes, and while they're typing that in, I have questions on the board. Are these questions related to the amendment of the amendment, Commissioner Lawrence?
Okay, Commissioner Sanford, on the amendment to amend, to allow the chairman to also cast a vote.
Make a motion.
Make a motion.
I guess it technically has to do with the amendment and everything else. Make a motion to, can I make a motion to defer this till January? Call the question and make the motion to defer this till January?
Can't do both, but put the mic in front of you, please.
I'd like to make a motion to defer this to January till we can get clear and concise rewording of this to make it clearer.
Let me see if we can, I guess he can do that, right?
I don't know why you couldn't.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, till February, because the Rules Committee can meet in January.
I have a motion to defer this resolution to February. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lisa Hayes. Any questions or comments on the motion to defer Resolution 2424 to February?
Question.
Raise your hand if you have a question on that. So Commissioner Jones, and then I'll go to you, Lawrence. Commissioner Lawrence.
Okay, this is changing rules. Do we have a higher
No.
standard in February
Yeah,
to
that's
change a
true.
rule?
Yes, sir, we
Okay.
You
do.
do.
That's my question.
We require a 2/3 vote in February.
Why? It's in the rules.
Only October and November is typically when we do rules changes.
Your current rules allow for amendment of your rules by majority vote in October or November. Changes to the rules in any other meeting require a 2/3 vote to change the rules. So if it is deferred to February, it will require a 2/3 vote at that time.
January?
Commissioner Lawrence had raised his hand before I saw the board.
My question would be also, there's this last sentence, a censure commissioner can still vote but cannot gain the floor for purpose of speaking. My question is, how long does the censure last? Is that only for one meeting, or could
For
that
just for that
extend?
resolution, only the resolution that they're speaking.
But it says a broader census, but a broader censure,
The amendment doesn't.
I know that, but I'm just bringing, if the amendment is to defer and we defer it, then this is something we need to,
Yeah, right now, your question should be
Okay.
on deferring
all right,
or not.
sorry.
Is that, okay. Commissioner Sanford, on your own motion? No, that wouldn't be right.
Oh, should be Clifford.
I'm going to go to Clifford. Clifford on the,
On the deferral.
Well, I don't know. My motion stands to defer to February.
okay. So on the motion to defer to January, which we have a proper motion and we have a second. Sorry, February, which we have a proper motion and a proper second. I'll now go to Commissioner Clifford. Okay, on the deferment, Commissioner Jones, you've already asked. Any other questions or comments on the motion to defer this resolution to February? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of deferring this resolution to February, once it's loaded, signify by pressing your yes button. If you're opposed, your no.
Wait, she's got to load the motion
Sure.
in a second.
She is.
Now she's changed it to
Hold
vote.
it.
We're testing her typing skills this evening.
The motion was by Sanford, the second by Hayes on the deferral. And we're in a learning curve.
Second was Hayes. There you go.
Awesome.
Is
Now
it
we're
loaded?
ready to vote.
Okay. So if you're in favor of deferring Resolution 112424 to February, signify by pressing your yes button. If you're opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
15 yes, 9 no.
It is deferred.
The motion is deferred, or the resolution is deferred. All
Without
right.
the amendment having passed.
Without the amendment having been passed, yes. I believe we're on now to resolution, I almost did, Resolution 112425. Resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning the limitation of signs at public hearings. Proper motion made by Commissioner Mary Smith, seconded by Commissioner Greg Sanford. The Rules Committee was 4 in favor, 2 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Aiello.
So this is another resolution that came before the Rules Committee, essentially amending Rule 4 by adding in new language banning signs, banners, or flags. It's a pretty short sentence. The only other comment I'll make is if somebody's going to defer this, I'd prefer you ask to do that before we get into an hour of discussion. But I refer back to council if there's any questions.
We have a question on the board from Commissioner Richards.
Yeah, these are going to be for legal. The first, as it's written, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it seems to be saying that all flags and all signs are prohibited from the chambers. That I would take to mean we need to remove the American flag, the state flag.
No, it does not mean that. That was certainly not the intent. If you want to clarify it, we can amend it to clarify that.
It's not my amendment.
I mean, you asked the question. I'm just saying, no, it was not intended to take the American flag out of the room.
Oh, I'm sure that's not his intent, but that's what it says.
That's what it says.
Well, then let's move on to my second point, which is really much more important. And legal, you're going to hate me for this. I'm like, but the state already decided this issue last year. Like, there was 3 people who had signs in the state representative office. Like, they were thrown out, and they tried to pass a rule that they could not have signs. Basically, I'm going to tell you that the judge ruled in their favor. I can give you the court citing. I can do whatever you want me to do.
Sure, you can provide it to me, and I'll be happy to look at it. Again, if you provide it in advance of the meeting, I'll be more than happy to be prepared. I can't do it on the fly, though.
Counsel, I think a state ruling that was just passed last year should have been something that should have been reviewed before this resolution was submitted.
And I would also point to you the fact that your rules require commissioners who have questions for council to provide them when feasible in advance of the meeting.
Fair enough. Like, I got these today. I'm like, I would move to defer based upon this.
Defer to?
Defer to, well, we probably should look also at February.
I have a motion to defer Resolution 112425 to February. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lisa Hayes. Any questions or comments on the deferral? I see questions on the board. They were removed. Any questions on the deferral? I'm seeing none. If you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of deferring Resolution 112425 to February, signify by pressing your yes button once it's loaded. And if you're opposed, press your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. It's not recording mine for some reason. Try it again. There we go. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whidbey.
9 yes, 15 no.
Motion to defer fails. We're now back to the resolution. When the board pops up, I'll take questions in the order they were. First question goes to Commissioner Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is another resolution that, as we talked about in the Rules Committee, I don't recall this being a problem in 10 years I've been here. If there is a problem, I think the chairman has discretion to speak to the audience, to lower their signs if it's blocking somebody's view, or possibly remove the sign. And I just don't, I think this is a solution in search of a problem, this resolution, because it's not something that, in my experience here, has ever really been a problem.
Commissioner Sanford.
Jeff, again, I'm no attorney, but reading this, no signs, banners, or flags, I know this wasn't the intent, but is there some kind of legal standing? Obviously, I want the flags to stay, but the way this is written, does that qualify?
Oh, I think you could clarify it. I mean, it would be easy to add other than the U.S., Tennessee, or Williamson County flags, and that would cover the flags that you have in here, if that were the desire of the body.
I'd make a motion to amend it to say that the U.S. flag, Tennessee flag, and Williamson County flag stays in there.
Seconded by Cheryl Brown. Proper motion made by Commissioner Greg Sanford to add verbiage that the U.S. flag, Tennessee flag, and county flag may remain in the building. Proper motion and second have been made. Do I have questions concerning that amendment? Commissioner Mason on the amendment.
Yes. So my comment, it kind of goes along with this. I do think this needs to be a little more narrowly construed. My suggestion was going to be kind of going along in that same vein, and instead of going that route, the amendment would read that any audience member, while the commission is in session, should not hold any sign, banner, or flag larger, I was going to suggest, than a sheet of paper. And that would then limit it to just the people in the audience, and we're not talking about people wearing lapel pins. We're not talking about people holding little flags. We're not talking about the flags that we have in here, so it's more directly limited. So it's very similar to, I think, what Commissioner Sanford's trying to achieve. It's just a little bit different way of approaching it and a different way to think about it, is that it's limiting those members in the chamber during session to signs, banners, or flags not to exceed. And because I think somebody said, well, what about if we have the football championship and they scroll out a banner? You know, that's different than what we're talking about. We're talking about people sitting in the audience holding up poster board pieces of paper preventing views. So that was going to be my suggestion to amend it, but I don't know how we have dueling or competing amendments.
It could either be an amendment to the amendment, or if Commissioner Sanford agrees with you and wishes to change his original amendment to marry yours, and the second agrees to that, we could go that route.
Yes, but my only problem with that is you said a piece of paper. Is it a legal size? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it would be 8.5 by 11. 8.5 by 11.
Just for
That's
clarification.
a standard piece of paper everybody is used to.
I'll amend the amendment with Commissioner Mason.
Who was your, Commissioner Shell Brown? And do we need to restate, Commissioner Mason, what your verbiage is considering the amendment?
Yes, my verbiage would be no signs, banners, or flags are permitted by audience members in the Board of Commissioners chambers during a meeting of the Board of Commissioners to exceed the size of to exceed 8.5 by 11.
Commissioner Shell Brown, are you in agreement with that as the second?
No.
Okay.
The only reason is that little paper sign could be something like blank you. You get what I'm saying? And I think, given our current temperature of things that are, I just don't know. I don't want somebody to be sitting there with
Sure, if you want to.
a really bad word telling us
It's on the floor at this point.
something. So I would rather them not come in with any sign, period. Keep it outside.
Mr. Chair,
You could pull it.
can I withdraw my amendment? And I think, I don't want to put words in her mouth, I think Commissioner Mason may withdraw her amendment, and let's defer this till February, till we get a better grasp.
We just had a vote to defer it and it failed.
Yeah, we can't defer no.
Without objection, who was the original motion and second by? Sean Aiello, were you the original? For the original.
The original resolution
Yeah.
itself was Mary Smith and Craig Sanford.
With
The resolution,
For this resolution?
as it initially was presented.
Yeah, I want to pull it.
You can't, but I can, and that's what I'm leading to. If it's,
They can withdraw their motion, you can then pull the resolution.
if the original motion and second will withdraw, I would like, as the author of this resolution, to pull it. And that was made by Commissioner Sanford and Commissioner Mary Smith. Are you okay with us pulling this resolution?
Yes, please.
And I pull the resolution.
Not deferred, pulled.
Not deferred, pulled. Resolution 112426, resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning oral reports. Proper motion made by Commissioner Barb Sturgeon, seconded by Commissioner Steve Smith. Rules Committee was 6 in favor, 0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Aiello.
Yeah, I don't think it's really fair for me to keep doing these. I'm 0 and 2 so far on these committees. But this is one that's well, it says each oral report shall be limited to 5 minutes with the exception of reports required by law. It just kind of amends kind of what our standards are. And I would point out some of the discussion we had This is something that can also be not gotten around, but not abided by, I think, request of the commission. So it sets a basic standard, but there can be exceptions per commission preference.
Well said. With that, my first question goes to Commissioner Lisa Hayes.
I think just to clarify too, we talked about in case our wonderful sheriff needed to give us a jail update that took more than 5 minutes, that the chairperson would have the ability to do that. Excellent.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Any other question here from Commissioner Sturgeon?
I'd just like to make a comment that after some of our marathon meetings going till 12 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock at night, I think this is an excellent resolution.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor of the resolution, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Resolution 11-2427, resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning presentations. Proper motion made by Commissioner Mary Smith, seconded by Commissioner Lisa Hayes. Rules Committee was 6-4, 0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Aiello.
All right, so same lines, another Rules Committee meeting presentation. Limiting presentations to 15 minutes. Again, there can be exceptions if we need them.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
The next resolution was pulled, that being 11-2428, on to 11-2429, resolution amending the rules, regulations, and procedures of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners concerning public comment at public hearings. The proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Tom Tunnicliffe. The Rules Committee was 6-4, 0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Aiello.
All right, I think this is the last one of these, dealing with the ability to deem someone out of order at public hearings on zoning matters if the comments are deemed to be inappropriate.
No, this just limits it to 3
Nope.
minutes, right? I think that's incorrect.
Is that not the right one? What are we on?
The last line says you rule out if it's deemed
That's what it says.
inappropriate.
No.
Focus of this is-
What is this?
The focus of this is meant to be for the limiting them to 3 minutes, as we do with citizen comments.
Okay, then, sure.
Where's the line he's saying?
This one, right here.
The very last sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any questions or comments? My board's not showing, so I see somebody has pressed their button, I just don't see who. There we go. Commissioner Sturgeon.
Maybe it's a clarification, or maybe, I mean, I don't like this, the chairperson shall have the right to rule any person out of order when in the chair's discretion, those comments are deemed inappropriate. This would be like, you're saying this to the public, it's their public comment, and how can you just tell them they can't talk? I just don't think that seems constitutional or legal. It's like, we're having public comment, but you can't say it if I don't, I mean, it's too vague. It doesn't explain what you would, it's just open to your discretion, or the chairman's discretion, I should say, not yours. So I would make a motion to take that sentence out.
So you have a motion
Last
to amend to
sentence of
delete that
H.
sentence.
I have a motion to delete the last sentence in paragraph H. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Richards and Commissioner Hayes, I believe. But any questions or comments on the motion to remove that sentence? Commissioner Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually just a question for legal.
If we remove that sentence, and somebody gets up in their 3-minute time limit and they, attack me, they attack the commission, do we still have a mechanism in the rules where that can be dealt with?
You currently have a rule which says no personal attacks. are not allowed, and you also have certain, you have language in your rules as to civility and such as to that. So yes, you do have that already in the rules. To some degree, this is duplicative of the general power of the chair to rule someone out of order. So, yeah.
Okay. And then the only other question is there anything in TCA that, that by putting a time limit for a public hearing, that would create conflict by doing this?
No, that's what
Okay.
we looked at, and that's really the focus of this resolution, is you don't currently have a time limit on public comment. Someone could get up and speak for 30 minutes during the public comment on a zoning matter, and if this resolution is an attempt to say you can make your comments, but you can do it in a 3-minute time frame.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner O'Neill?
I completely agree with the time limit restriction. Just based on my understanding of First Amendment issues, I feel like that I completely understand what we're trying to do. But when it comes to the public speaking, then it gets into content regulation. And I mean, I guess if somebody was sitting there cursing us all out, trying to do that for 3 minutes, that's one thing. But I personally don't have a problem if they sit there and direct, criticisms of me for 3 minutes straight, as long as they're done in 3 minutes. But, so I'm a little bit concerned about that because it starts getting into content regulation. And then from my experience, the places that have had problems with this has been when it's been very vague, and it ends up being a pick and choose situation. I just don't want us to get in that situation. So,
Commissioner Mason?
Am I correct that when a member of the public is speaking about a zoning issue, it should be limited to that zoning issue? Or can they talk about anything? Do our
No,
rules?
The public hearing is on the resolution that you have called the public hearing for that purpose.
Okay.
Yes.
So I think what's giving a lot of people concern is inappropriate. And I wonder if the better word would be to somehow be off topic or does not speak to the resolution. Because if they get up there on a zoning resolution and start talking about buses or school enrollment, then they're not speaking to the resolution. So if we amended it in the chair's discretion, these comments are not germane to the resolution, that may address some people's issues. So I would make a motion to amend it, take out inappropriate, and have it be specific to the resolution.
I have a motion to amend the amendment to, instead of removing the sentence in its entirety, changing it by removing inappropriate to language that would suggest the chairman's discretion is to the comments being germane to the resolution before them. Do I have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Greg Sanford. Any questions or comments on the amendment to the amendment? Well, it says inappropriate. It doesn't say germane.
They're speaking at a public hearing on a zoning matter. So that already covers it.
I'm wishing I hadn't brought any of these before.
I have no idea.
My board's not showing if there's a question or not. Okay, there we go.
They don't have a second.
Yeah, I do have a second. Who was the second from? For second, it was Greg Sanford. All right, so the amendment to amend the amendment, instead of removing the line in its entirety, changing the line so that it focuses on whether or not the comments are germane to the resolution being presented. I have that motion made by Commissioner Mason and seconded by Commissioner Sanford. Commissioner Sturgeon on the amendment to amend the amendment.
How can she change my amendment?
She can't. She's
I feel like
your
my
amendment-
amendment just got changed.
Robert's Rules of Order, she's making an amendment that if passed, would change your amendment.
So you can nullify somebody else's amendment by
Up to-
making an amendment to
Up to
the
2.
amendment?
You can't go to 3, but you can do
But-
2 at a time.
So I can't amend her amendment that just amended my amendment. Can you please explain it a little bit? Because I'm not really sure I understand her amendment to my amendment.
Her amendment would be, instead of deleting the entire sentence, is changing it to where it says that they can make a ruling when they are deemed not to be speaking or the comments are not germane to the resolution. So basically saying it's irrelevant, not just taking the authority away completely.
So can you tell me exactly what the amendment's going to say?
If it were passed, the way I'm reading it, it would say the commission chairperson shall have the right to rule any person out of order when, in the chair's discretion, those comments are not germane to the resolution.
In a public hearing.
Got it.
Yeah, it's still in a public hearing. That's still all limited by the first sentence, which is in a public hearing or zoning matter, on zoning matters, excuse me.
Any other questions on the amendment to the amendment? Seeing none, if we're ready to vote, if you're in favor of changing the last line in paragraph H to require verbiage making it germane to the resolution at hand, signify by pressing your yes button. If you're opposed to that amendment, signify by pressing your no button. Anybody wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
19 yes, 5 no.
So now you have to vote on the amendment as amended by that amendment.
Which is essentially the same thing.
No, it's not. That vote was to change the last sentence. Now you have to vote on whether or not that change will take place.
Okay. Clear as mud. All right, so now we have to vote on the amendment as now amended,
Correct.
that which instead of removing the line has altered the line. Again, that motion was already made, so we still have to vote on that action.
Correct.
So any questions on the newly amended
Last sentence.
last line?
Now we've amended the last
So-
one, now we're voting to remove it.
Huh?
I hear mumbling, but I don't see any questions on the board.
You could have approved the amendment to change the language and still voted against the amendment. You are now saying, as amended, you approve it or disapprove it. So you have two separate votes. One was to what that amendment would look like. The second is then to approve or deny that amendment.
So this is on the amendment, do we want to delete the last sentence as amended or not?
No.
The amendment is to change the last sentence as it was amended in the last vote. That's what the amendment now is.
Really say amend the last sentence
Okay.
as amended.
Correct
Your
me.
last vote was only to change the amendment. It was not to vote on
Okay.
the amended language.
Okay.
So you will have this amendment to vote on. If it is passed, then you will vote on the resolution as a whole.
So if you're in favor of the germane sentence, you would vote yes. If you're
Correct.
not in favor of the germane sentence, you would vote no.
And it would go back to the original
Original.
language.
Okay.
Correct.
Just a question, just to clarify. Is that what up there is correct, right? Amend the last sentence
Yes.
as we just amended it?
Yes.
Correct, so
Yes.
that's, yeah, we're good. Because it's not deleting the sentence anymore, it's just amending it, so you're good.
Correct.
Thank you.
So we're essentially casting the same vote, but we're required to cast it because an amendment was made to alter the resolution earlier.
That's right.
So that amendment has been made, and to Commissioner Mason's point, it would be the same vote. If you're in favor of changing the sentence to add the germane language, then you would vote yes. If you're against that, or against amending this resolution at all, you would vote no. And I have a question from Commissioner Mary Smith.
I'm sorry, but this is really confusing because wasn't your amendment to delete the last sentence?
Yeah, that was, my amendment
So-
was to delete it.
I don't understand how we can change Commissioner Sturgeon's amendment.
It was amended.
One could amend it again now, right?
It could be amended again now. You can have two amendments on the floor.
I just feel like we're voting on, we nullified her amendment. So it's what it feels like.
Commissioner Webb.
Mr. Chair, would you read the last sentence that we're voting on, just so we're all clear, please?
I would prefer to have it typed up for me, but I'll take a stab at it. The commission chairperson shall have the right to rule any person out of order when, in the chair's discretion, the comments are deemed to not be germane to the resolution being presented.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, if we're ready to vote, If you're in favor of changing the last sentence to that language, signify by pressing your yes button. If you're opposed, your no button. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Herbert. There we go. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
18 yes, 6 no.
And now we're voting on the resolution, right?
Resolution as a whole, as amended.
I know it feels like we're doing this 3 times, but we're now going to vote on the resolution as amended. Resolution again, 112429. Any questions or comments on the resolution now as it is amended? I've got one request to speak, but I don't see who it is. Okay. Commissioner Sturgeon.
I'd just like to say, I know the intent is good on this resolution, but I don't think it's a good resolution. Because how many times have you tried to speak, if the person who is acting as chairperson just goes, I don't think that's germane, so I'm shutting you down. But they haven't gotten to their point yet. Or why do we have to limit what the public's gonna say? Let's just let them say what they want to say. They got 3 minutes. So, I'm sorry? I know. I know. They got 3 minutes to say what they want to say. And I don't know, historically, have we been overwhelmed with public comment on zoning issues?
Yes.
I don't think so. So, anyway, that's my comment.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Mary Smith?
I guess to Commissioner Sturgeon's point, though, this doesn't stop anybody from coming to public comment and sharing what, this is just specific to if we have a public hearing on
Yes.
zoning.
Only on zoning public hearings.
Correct.
Okay. So they can still come early and do their public comment and speak on whatever
Oh, yeah.
topic they want. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote on the resolution as a whole and as amended, and you're in favor of the resolution as amended, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
18 yes, 6 no.
Resolution passes. Late filed resolution 112431, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a co-location licensing agreement with the State of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner David O'Neill. No committee action were taken because it's late filed. Explanation, please, Commissioner Mason.
So this is a resolution allowing us to enter into a licensing agreement with the state of Tennessee for our public safety to add on to the telecommunication tower, which is my understanding. This is different than what we've talked about previously with the cell tower. This is for public safety radio communication. Am I correct on that? I see the mayor's nodding his head.
I've got a question from Commissioner Lisa Hayes.
Just so I understand, this is an existing tower where they're just wanting to add public safety on it. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. Late filed resolution 112432, resolution authorizing the Williamson County Mayor to enter into a co-location licensing agreement with the State of Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security. I'm told that there's a typo on the agenda, but the resolution itself is worded correctly. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Lisa Hayes. Explanation, please, Commissioner Mason.
This is the exact same resolution, just different tower, different location. The previous one was on Clovercroft. This one is at the county landfill, but again, it's for public safety to add on to an existing tower.
Any questions? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed, your no. Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Commissioner Hester. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
The next resolution was pulled, 112433, On to 11/24/34, resolution to name a bridge located on Clovercroft Road at, mine's covered up here with ink. What is that, Burke Road, Burke Hollow?
Looks like Burke Hollow.
Burke Hollow Road in honor of Noble Houston Nairn for his many years of service as a community leader to Williamson County and its citizens. Proper motion made by Commissioner Cheryl Brown, seconded by Commissioner Greg Sanford. Highway Commission was 5-4-0 against. Explanation, please, Commissioner Mary Smith.
Yes, so the family of Commissioner Nairn had requested to have a bridge named in his honor, dedicated to him, and I did not have the pleasure or honor of knowing Houston Nairn, but from what I read in the Williamson Herald, he was quite the man. So focused on man after my own heart, focused on solutions and not just problems. He was raised in Nolensville. He attended Nolensville Elementary and graduated from Franklin High School in 1964. He is one of the only commissioner, I believe, that actually held the chair of the school board and also the chair of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners. He had 32 years of public service, so I think this is a great honor for this gentleman. So I'm honored to be sponsoring it.
And I have a comment from Commissioner Steve Smith. Oh, I'm sorry. Any questions or comments? You came up again. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, if you're ready to vote, if you're in favor, signify by pressing your yes button. Any opposed or no? Anyone wishing to change their vote, please do so at this time. Record the vote, please, Mr. Whitby.
24 yes, 0 no.
Resolution passes. As a reminder, we do not meet in December, so I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, a happy Christmas, a happy New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. In January, when we do meet, we'll meet at 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock. As always, I want to thank the sheriff and his deputies for being here tonight, all the department heads for staying late. If there's no other business to come before this board, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.